Property Tax Subcommittee will come to order. We have a quorum present. Purpose of today's hearing is to present the delete all amendment for which will be the Property Tax Subcommittee report to the full Tax Committee. How we are going to do today, we're going to present the bill. I will make comments. We'll offer the members of the committee to have questions and discussion about it. Tomorrow we will allow public testimony, and we will proceed with markup for amendments. And we will lay the bill over today, take it up again tomorrow, and the intent is that by the end of our committee meeting tomorrow, we would pass this bill out of the Property Tax Subcommittee on to the full Tax Committee. So with that, I would remind you to keep your papers that on which you make notes today. We can always provide you another copy tomorrow, but we kill enough trees the way it is. So we'll, now the property products people might argue the statement there, but anyway, we will proceed at this point. I am going to move the A1. Oh. Okay. I will move to take Senate file number 3706 off the table. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. I will now move the A1 amendment, which is a delete all amendment. And so with that, we will proceed to explanation of the A1 amendment, and I will first turn to Mr. Sylvia.
Mr. Chair and members, I will be walking through Article 1, property taxes, and Article 3, the tax increment financing article. Mr. Arneson will be walking through Article 2, the property tax aids and credits. For each section, we will note the bill from which the language came from, the bill author, and any changes that appear in the division report from the bill as first heard in the committee. Beginning with Article 1, Section 1, this language is from Senator Bach, Senate File 3451, and this provides a limited property tax exemption for certain airport property owned or operated by a city with a population over 50,000 but less than 150,000. Section 2 contains a language from Senator Chamberlain, Senate File 4158, that provides a 10-year property tax exemption for certain property in Minneapolis owned by Indian tribe. No changes were made to this section, Mr. Chair and members. Without an exemption, the exemption contained in the language would expire in in taxes payable 2024. The section would also exempt the property from any requirements that it provide a statement of exemption to the Department of Revenue. Section 3 is from Chair Weber, Senate File 3467, and this establishes a 10-year property tax exemption for certain energy storage systems. The only change that was made to this is to provide the 10-year sunset. The bill, as first heard by the committee, did not have a 10-year sunset provision. Section 4 goes along with Sections 8 and 13, and for the moment I will pass on Section 4 and discuss this when I later discuss Section 8, where the bulk of the provision appears. Section 5 is from Chair Weber, Senate File 3706, and this sets the first tier valuation limit for agricultural homestead property at $2.5 million for assessment year 2023. And then beginning in assessment year 2024, the limit will be annually adjusted by the Department of Revenue pursuant to current law. Sections 6, 7, and 10 all are from Senator Weber's Senate File 3945, and these three sections make changes to the Class 4D low-income housing property tax classification. Section 6 specifically requires that a property owner receive approval by the governing body of the city or town where the property is located before applying to the Housing Finance Agency for initial Class 4D designation for property that was not in whole or in part classified as Class 4D prior to assessment year 2023. Section 7 simply adds this approval requirement to the application that must be filed with the Housing Finance Agency for Class 4D designation. I'll just jump quick to Section 10. This actually sets the class rate for Class 4D low-income housing at 0.25%. Now, under current law, all Class 4D properties are subject to 2 valuation tiers per rental unit, and this would eliminate the 2 tiers and set the class rate at 0.25%. Moving back to Section 8, as I noted, Sections 4, 8, and 13 are all from Senator Bach, Senate File 3200, and this establishes a new affordable housing market value exclusion program. This would promote the development of new rental properties. Eligible properties would receive a 50% market value exclusion, and an eligible property is one that is not classified at all or in part as Class 4D, but is classified as Class 4A, which are 4+ unit rental apartments. Construction of the property began on or after January 1st, 2022, and at least 20% of the units are available for residents whose household income at the initial time of occupancy does not exceed 60% of the grade of area or state median income. There were 2 changes made to this section from when the committee first heard the proposal. The first is that the program itself was given in a sunset date, so any property that is not approved by the local government or the county board, if required, by December 31st, 2030, would not be eligible for the exclusion under this section. And lastly, as I just noted, this provision also includes a new county approval requirement. So under the program, a city or town or unorganized township must first adopt a resolution agreeing to participate in the exclusion program, and then that same body must also provide a second property-specific resolution for each property for which the local government unit wishes to receive the exclusion. And it's that property-specific resolution that must be then provided to the county board for approval. If the county board does not approve within either 60 days or affirmatively denies approval, then the property would not receive the exclusion under this section. Section 9 is from Senator Rude, Senate File 1476, and this modifies the classification tier rates for Class 1C homestead resort property. Moving on to Section 11, this contains the language from both Senator Lang's Senate File 2681 and Senator Howe's 4021. This section provides changes to the disabled veterans homestead market value exclusion. First, it allows a surviving spouse of a member of the U.S. Armed Forces who dies during active service to submit a first-time application either within 2 years of the service member's death, within 2 years of the Department of Veteran Affairs dependency and indemnity compensation determination, or by December 31st, 2023, whichever is later. And the second change contained in this section is to allow a surviving spouse who previously received the exclusion prior to assessment year 2019 to reapply. Beginning in assessment year 2019, the eligibility for surviving spouses was changed from an 8-year carry forward to a potential lifetime benefit, and this would allow any surviving spouse who fell within that window for which the exclusion no longer applied to reapply under this section. Section 12 is similar language to Senate File 3192 from Senator Rest concerning the homestead market value exclusion. But what is actually contained in Section 2 is a more significant increase of approximately 25% for both the minimum and maximum market value thresholds for the homestead market value exclusion. Section 13, I noted, is a conforming change to Section 8, which provides for the affordable housing market value exclusion. The actual exclusion itself appears in Section 13. Section 14 is from Chair Weber, Senate File 3898, concerning the definition of attachments and appurtenances of cooperative utility distribution lines. Under current law, distribution lines, including attachment and appurtenances located in rural areas and owned by a cooperative association, are exempt from taxation. This section specifies that attachments and appurtenances include all cooperative association-owned metering and street lighting equipment that is physically or electrically connected to the cooperative association distribution system. The bill, as originally drafted and heard in committee, was a little more open, and there was concern that the definition would include transmission lines and substations. The definition in section 14 is tightened so that it provides clarity that under that definition, metering and street lighting equipment is included, but is not by any means the only attachment and appurtenance for purposes of that definition. Section 15 makes changes to the state general levy. The committee heard 3 proposals concerning the state general levy, Senate File 4077 from Senator Jasinski, Senate File 4455 from Senator Gazelka, and Senate File 3694 from Senator Nelson. What is contained in Section 15 is actually a reduction of the state general levy for both the commercial industrial property and seasonal recreational property by a combined $23 million for taxes payable in 2023 through 2025. Beginning with taxes payable in 2026, both levies, the CI and the seasonal rec levy, are reduced by 10% each year until the levy for both properties is 0 for taxes payable in 2035. Section 16 adds the affordable housing market value exclusion from Section 8 and the agricultural riparian buffer credit that Mr. Arneson will talk about in Article 2 to the property tax statement. Section 17 and 18 contain the language from Senator Osmic, Senate File 2764, concerning the interest rate charge for delinquent property taxes, penalties and interest, and confessions of judgment. This section would eliminate the 10% minimum and allow the county board by resolution to establish a lower interest rate than the prime rate charged by banks. Under current law, there is a reference to the prime rate charged by banks, but there's the 10% minimum. This would eliminate that. Right now, the prime rate charged by banks is 3%. Section 19 contains the language from Senator Klein, Senate File 2929, and this makes changes to the targeting or additional property tax refund. This is not the income-sensitive refund. This is the targeted refund, which provides relief to homeowners whose property taxes increase from one year to the next. Section 19 would reduce from 12 to 10% the threshold to qualify for this refund, and also increase from $1,000 to $2,000 the maximum refund allowed. Sections 20 through 23 contain language from both Senator Klein's Senate File 3184 and Senator Murphy's Senate File 3803 concerning the Senior Citizens Property Tax Deferral Program. There are 2 changes that is made to the qualifications under the section. First, the maximum household income is increased from $60,000 to $75,000. And secondly, the household occupancy and ownership requirement is reduced from 15 to 5 years. And lastly, Mr. Chair and members, Section 24 contains the language that the committee heard just last week from Senator Thomasoni in Senate File 3765. And this would authorize the City of Virginia to finance the construction of a public safety building by obtaining a loan from the United States Department of Agriculture secured by the city's general obligation pledge, and any bonds issued relating to this project or repayment of that loan must not be included in the computation of the city's limit on net debt. Mr. Chair and members, that concludes the walkthrough of Article 1 property taxes.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Sylvia. We'll wait till the presentation of every item of this bill for questions, and then we'll proceed from there. Next, we'll turn to Mr. Arneson.
Mr. Chair and members, Article 2 is the property tax aids and credits article. Section 1 establishes the agricultural riparian buffer credit. This is a Senator Goggin bill, number 2868. The changes in this provision relative to what we heard in committee is that in order to be eligible to generate a credit amount, buffer land that is enrolled in and generating payments under a state or federal conservation reserve or easement program is not eligible for the credit under this revised language. Secondly, the credit amount in this proposal in front of you is 50% of the amount of net tax capacity-based property taxes attributable to the buffer. And finally, the effective date of this provision is extended to beginning 2024. Sections 2, 3, and 4 also relate to the buffer credit. Section 2 is kind of standard conforming language, clarifying the payment schedule for school districts. Section 3 adds the agricultural riparian buffer property tax credit to the list of credits used in calculating net taxes. And Section 4 requires that the agricultural buffer credit be included on the proposed property tax statement. Section 5 relates to electric generation transition aid. This came from a Senator Housley bill, number 3641. The bill proposes to establish electric generation transition aid for counties, cities, towns, and school districts in which electric generating units are retired. Members of the committee are probably relatively familiar with the mechanics of the bill. We heard it relatively recently. The only change to the bill from when we heard it in committee earlier is that this also is delayed until aids payable 2024 to address a concern raised by the department about the administrative feasibility of matching data from Bowser and from the assessors to establish eligibility for the credit under the CRP requirement. Section 6 is from a Senator Matthews bill, Senate File 3069. This would reimburse taxing jurisdictions in Mille Lacs County for lost property tax revenue due to placement of property into trust by the United States Department of Interior, Bureau of Indian Affairs. And there are no changes to this proposal relative to when we heard it earlier. Section 7 establishes Class 4D transition aid. This comes from the Senator Weber bill, Senate File 3945, we heard back in March. This proposal pays transition aid to cities in which the net tax capacity 4D property exceeds 2% of the total net tax capacity in assessment 22. And the transition aid is a function of the amount of net tax capacity shift around due to the classification rate change and the city's paid 2023 tax rate. This would be a 2-year transition aid only. Sections 8 through 12 all relate to aid penalty forgiveness provisions for various cities. Section 8 relating to the city of Roosevelt is a Senator Johnson bill, Senate File 1052, and it requires the commissioner to pay the city of Roosevelt its withheld 2019 aid amounts, about $25,000, provided that the city files its required OSA reporting forms for 2018 and 2019 by June 1st, 2022. Section 9 and 10 relate to the city of Bena and Boyer River. These are Senator Eichhorn bills, Senate File 4535 and 4532. These would forgive the aid penalty for pay 21 for the cities of Bena and Boyer River. Again, if those cities file their required OSA reporting forms for 2020, no later than June 1st, 2022. And finally, we have 2 Senator Dames bills, Senate File 2788 for the city of Echo and Senate File 3289 for the city of Morton. Again, these relate to 2021 aid penalty forgiveness and would require that the cities be paid their withheld aid amounts, provided that they file their required 2020 reports no later than June 1st, 2022. And for these 2 cities in particular, the Office of the State Auditor has already reported that the city has complied with the reporting requirements required under this language. And that concludes Article 2, the aids and credits article. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Arneson. And then we'll go to Article 3, Mr. Selby.
Mr. Chair and members, Article 3 is the tax increment financing article. I will note at the outset that all the provisions included within this article have not changed from when the committee first heard these proposals. Sections 1 through 4 and 6 through 12 all contain the language from Senator Rest, Senate File 4086. This was the technical and clarifying bill introduced on behalf of the state auditor, making changes to administrative expenses, pooling, and violation provisions. And Section 5 contains the language of Senator Nelson, Senate File 3519. This is making a general law change to the ability of authorities to use increment generated from economic development districts on multi-level commercial facilities in small cities. The committee heard two proposals. One was this 3959, the general law provision, and the city-specific Senate File 3160 for the city of Chatfield. What's included here is the general law change, and because we're including that, the city-specific Senate File 3160 is no longer needed. On the back page of the summary are the three city-specific TIF proposals that are included within Article 3. Section 13 contains a language from Senate File 3970 from Senator Port concerning the city of Savage. And this makes changes to special legislation enacted in 2014 for the city of Savage concerning some gravel pit development. Specifically, Section 13 would extend by 3 additional years both the 5-year rule and the 5-year period relating to the enlargement area of a district. Section 14 contains legislation very similar to the 2014 legislation for the city of Savage. And this Section 14 would allow the city of Shakopee to create various TIF districts under special rules in the defined area of the city. Before establishing the districts, the city must find that 70% of the defined area has peat or other geotechnical difficulties, landfills, dumps, quarries, gravel pits, floodway, or substantial fill is required for commercial development. If established, this section would extend the 5-year rule to 8-year for districts established and also increase pooling from 20 to 80%. And lastly, Mr. Chair and members, Section 15 contains a language from Senator Kent, Senate File 2976 for the city of Woodbury. And this section would allow a TIF district in the city to be extended by 5 additional years, and also would allow income generated from that district to be used outside the district for maintenance, facility, and infrastructure upgrades to Central Park, and any of those expenditures would be deemed expended on activities within the district. Mr. Chair and members, that concludes a walkthrough of Article 3 and the entire delete everything amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Sylvia. First, I'd like to make a few comments about the bill. And I'll just start at the beginning of the analysis. Excuse me, we have the spreadsheet to go through yet. Mr. Wilms, please proceed.
Thank you. Mr. Chair and committee members, the tracking document included in your packets today is titled Senate Fiscal Tracking, Senate File 3706 as proposed to be amended, SCS 3706A1 delete everything amendment. In the right side of the tracking, you'll see the revision date, last revised, May 1st, 3 p.m. The tracking generally has 3 parts to it. Section 1 shows the general revenue fund, or general fund revenue changes. Those are lines 1 through 15. Section 2 shows the general fund expenditure changes, the spending within the property tax aids and credits area. Those are lines 19 through 50. Line 55 then shows the net effects. So it nets out the revenue changes and the spending changes. One convention to point out with regard to the spreadsheet is that in the revenue section, Section 1, the negative numbers indicate a reduction in general fund revenue, and the positive numbers indicate an increase in general fund revenue. And then in Section 2, for the expenditure changes, that follows the more conventional format in our budget documents, where a positive number indicates a spend and a negative number indicates a spending reduction. With regard to, additionally, I should note, the columns show the effective date, FY23, FY22 is omitted because there's no change in that fiscal year, the current fiscal year we're in. And then columns C shows the 22-23 effect, D and E show FY24-25, F shows the second biennium or the planning estimate period, the tails, FY24-25, and then column G shows the full effect over the entirety of the forecast horizon, so that would be FY23 through FY25. So beginning with Section 1, Lines 1 through 3 show the effects to the state general levy. As discussed previously, the proportional reduction to commercial, industrial, and seasonal recreational levy of approximately $23 million over the forecast period, and then a 10-year phase-out beginning in Pay 26. The asterisk noted there, and in addition in other places throughout the spreadsheet, shows provisions that have additional changes outside of the forecast window. So line 2 then shows the refund from the CI property levy for the Indian tribe-owned property tax exemption of $10,000. And then moving on to the income tax section, that shows basically the indirect effects of reducing property taxes contained further in the bill, and that shows a loss of deductions, property tax deductions, which in turn generates revenue. So on line 15, the subtotal general fund revenue changes from all these provisions is, over the forecast period, is a reduction in general fund revenue of $22.6 million. Moving down to section 2, the general fund expenditure changes. This shows the property tax refunds and credits. On line 19, I want to make special note of that provision. An error in the spreadsheet was noticed before one could be issued to the committee this morning. So line 19, since the payable date was moved back from 23 to 24, the fiscal year 24 effect should be tracked as 0. So another spreadsheet will be issued amending that and noting that. Line 20 shows the enhancements under Senator Klein's proposed targeting refund or additional property tax refund. That's approximately $4 million in additional general fund spending over the forecast period. Lines 21 through 33 show the property tax interactions. So the provisions do not directly affect the state budget, but they affect the amount of property tax refunds that are paid. So in the case of line 21, the homestead market value exclusion, because the exclusion lowers individuals' property taxes, there's a $7.3 million reduction in property tax refunds paid due to receiving the benefit of the exclusion, and that begins in FY25 and is ongoing. The other interactions are relatively small, so they won't be discussed individually. And then moving down to the next section, other aids and appropriations, we note the aid programs, and that includes the electric generation transition aid for local governments, the transition aid for cities from 4D class rate modifications, changes to the senior property tax deferral loan program, expanding eligibility there, the reimbursement for Mille Lacs lost revenue due to land placed in federal trusts. And then line 42 shows the LGA penalty forgiveness for the city of Roosevelt. And as noted earlier, unlike the other LGA penalty forgiveness amounts, this amount has already been canceled to the bottom line. So compared to the forecast, it would need to be tracked as $25,000. So line 50 shows the total general fund expenditure changes, and then line 55 shows the net effects on the general fund. Keeping in mind the riparian buffer correction that will be issued later, the net effects to the general fund are a reduction of $5.1 million in FY 22-23, a reduction of $11.254 million in 24, a reduction of $17.2 million in 25, and then in the tails, a total reduction of 28.428 for a net effect for all years of the budget window of a reduction of 33.5 million. And then finally, section 3 is really the non-budget items, which are tracked but have no state budget impacts. And that concludes the walkthrough of the spreadsheet.
Thank you, Mr. Wilms. First, comments that I would like to make. I think that some of the notable provisions here both deal with issues that have been in front of the legislature before, deal with problems that have been created within legislation before, and And now we are setting forth a program to work with those. First, as we look at property taxes, I think the main elements here are, of course, the increase in the homestead exemption amounts. We recognize that there is an issue out there. I think there is a concern of our constituents regarding their property taxes. I think we also need to understand that in the discussion, there sometimes gets to be a serious pointing of fingers, you know, and on the heels of the property tax statement came the valuation notices. And I think we oftentimes, the public and legislators, tend to equate the increase in value with an increase in taxes. And that may not necessarily be true. You can actually have an increase in valuation and have a decrease in taxes if your levies that are generated by cities, townships, counties, and school districts go down. And so we have to remember what the exact cause and purpose of real estate property taxes are for, and that is to fund our local units of government. The only item of real estate tax that the state of Minnesota collects comes from the general tax levy on our commercial, industrial, seasonal, recreational property. Yes, the state collects $760 million a year from those two elements. That element was created a number of years ago prior to my arrival in this body when the state had a revenue shortfall. And of course, as is so often the case, once government gets hold of money, it really, you have to fight to get them to let go of it. And so as we look at those particular issues, and as we look at the buffer tax credit, for example, this particular provision was actually introduced to us as an exclusion amount. Staff decided that I only had enough money to allow for a part reduction, and that it would be easier to deal with it as a credit as opposed to a partial value exclusion. Actually, Mr. Wilm's comment about the fact that we've got in here $4 million over $4 million in our projections that actually would be shoved back into pass off the spreadsheet is going to cause us to go back, and we're going to reevaluate that situation and see what we can do with that. I know that there are those who still would like to see the exclusion. They feel it's easier to work with for our county assessors. And I've encouraged them to visit with staff here this next day before we take amendments tomorrow so we can actually get that figured out appropriately. And then, of course, the 4D housing rate reduction is another element that has been talked about. You know, and the reason that I have went to the state general levy is the fact that with our homestead exclusion increases, both from residential, ag, and resort, we do tend to shift taxes to other classifications. That's the problem with real estate taxes. We provide a benefit to one, we're going to create a problem for someone else. It's truly the proverbial pebble in the pool. And so I have taken advantage of this opportunity to start the process whereby we unwind the state general tax levy. That, the buffer credit, 4D housing, and actually the provision of Senator Box that I've created to allow cities with, for that they approve and counties approve, to set aside the market value, a portion of market value of new multifamily housing, actually deals with issues that are in front of us all the time. Most of these issues are like the weather. Everyone talks about it, and nobody does anything about it. And I decided it was time that we do something about it. And so within this, I know that early last week, I had thrown out the idea of property value freeze. You know, come to find out, nobody really liked that. And so this is the net result of that. But just so everyone knows, if you don't like this, the legislation for the property tax freeze has been drafted, and a value freeze, and is laying on my desk. these are the provisions that believe I have room within my target, so to speak, and goals to achieve. I believe they are worthwhile goals to achieve. And with that, members, I would open it up for questions from you. Senator Klein.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for what I think is a balanced bill and addresses some serious concerns of Minnesotans. As you pointed out, the biggest issue I think that Minnesotans are concerned about this year is the rapid increase in their property valuations, and by including Senator Rest's provisions regarding the market value exclusion increase, I think you've addressed that, and you've balanced that with riparian buffer credits and 40 housing, affordable housing, an urgent issue before the state. I guess my only comment and concern, just to bring to the attention of the committee and to all listeners, is the provision regarding the total elimination by 2035 of the corporate industrial levy, the state general levy. And I would just ask Mr. Wilms to bring to the attention of the committee what the impact of that will be on the general fund when we finally reach 2035. If that policy is implemented uninterrupted, what will be the loss to the general fund in the year 2035? It's not reflected on the spreadsheet, of course.
Mr. Wilms.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. The section discussed is in Article 2, and in Section 10, I believe. Sorry, Article 2, Section 15. So the state general levy amount is, currently on the spreadsheet, it's shown a $23 million reduction, and it's proportional for CI and for seasonal recreational amounts. And so after that initial effects, it begins to phase out by 10% each year. And so the effect within the forecast, as it's currently tracked, is approximately $746 million annually, to the general fund. So assuming no changes are made in terms of the reduction to the levy or any inflation is added, the amount is flat until it tapers down until that total amount is lost, but it's 10% every year of, the baseline starting point of approximately, a little over $700 million.
Senator Klein.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Wilms. And so it's just important, and maybe we decide that's the right thing to do. I guess you've articulated that that's the correct approach to property tax in our state, but that we enter that discussion with the full knowledge that that's going to be a $1.5 billion impact to the general fund by 2035 if the language in this bill is adopted uninterrupted through that time, and that's an important consideration for this committee. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Wilms, I think the $1.5 billion amount, isn't it 700 and some million dollars?
So, Mr. Chair, the annual amount is $750 million. A biennial amount is double that for $1.5 billion.
Oh, correct, yes. Thank you, yeah. I was thinking of the yearly basis, so. And very good. Other comments or questions, members? Okay, very good.
Let's make sure we lay this back on the table, lay the original bill.
Yeah, as amended.
No, we didn't.
No, didn't,
We'll do that
yeah,
tomorrow.
yeah. Okay, what they were gonna do, we will lay Senate File 3706 on the table. We will take it up for amendments tomorrow, and also public testimony. And so please keep your information that you've received today, and with that, today's meeting is hereby adjourned.
8:30 tomorrow.
8:30 tomorrow.